Meeting to order. Um, yeah, I did want to point out that it was 9/11. I thought that might seem appropriate. And in doing that, and in the craziness of the world, I don't want to make like any political comments personally, but this thing I was at that I missed meeting for last month was this crazy musician workshop, and there was a man from Afghanistan there. And we got to like perform and learn a song from Afghanistan. Because last month in August, I think it was the 17th, was the 5-year anniversary of the Taliban retaking power in Afghanistan. And I guess what I wanted to say, I think about 9/11, if it's comforting or terrifying, is that we can remind ourselves that like we're not the only country in the world. We're not also not the only country in the world affected by the actions of our government, but also that crazy violence from citizens and governments and governing bodies all over the world do happen. And that's both terrifying and comforting to me. And I don't know, I thought I would start the meeting that way because I can.
You're the chair.
Yeah, so marinate on that a little bit. And I guess we go to Willow for like official remarks and then we'll take public comment.
Thanks, Josh, for starting the meeting. Good evening, everyone. My name is Willow. I'm the City of Eugene staff rep for this meeting, and I have a few reminders and introductory words. I would like to begin by acknowledging that tonight's meeting is being held on Kalapuya Lihi, the traditional indigenous homelands of the Kalapuya people, whom continue to make contributions in their communities here and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. I'd also acknowledge that today is 9/11. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to advise the City of Eugene staff and community organizations and partners on the implementation of Eugene's pedestrian and bicycle strategic plan, to represent the community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions, and to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and bicycling. Eugene City staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed to YouTube, meaning that it can be viewed on the City of Eugene Transportation Planning YouTube channel, both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary will be held in the public record. Today's meeting begins with a 15-minute public comment period. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and when it is your time to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and if you live in Eugene, your neighborhood. We welcome and encourage public participation at all our meetings, but due to time constraints, only ATC members and invited presenters can ask questions and participate in discussion after the public comment period. We'll begin with those joining us online. And with that, I'll hand it over to Josh to sort of run the public comment period.
Connie,
Oh, nobody online.
Let me just check real quick. If
there's a
you're,
committee member online.
and we've got one attendee. If you are intending to make public comment, you can use the raise hand feature and I'll promote you. I think we're good.
That leaves you, Connie.
Hi, I'm Connie Berglund from Amazon Neighborhood. I don't know why I'm getting sad that each month I'm saying we have another death, but we have, I'm not gonna focus on that this time. What I'm gonna focus on is we've got thousands of young and not so young people coming into the university and just now and in the next few weeks. And a lot of them are gonna be bicycling or getting the new bikes, the renter bikes and all that sort of thing. And I carry this around with me at this time of year. And I also carry one of these around with me at this time of year. And I actually gave one out today on some people from Boulder. I ran into her moving to Eugene. And so just because we have so many people who won't know possibly how to bicycle very well, or even what the Oregon laws are. I know the U of O has these things that they hand out for rules of etiquette and bicycle etiquette, but I think that if any of us are out and about, especially the next month or two with all the new people cycling and walking about, these are really handy to try and hand out if you look at people seem like they're not knowing what they're going or whatever's going on. So I think it's helpful.
Thank you.
Next one, Sue.
Could I actually make a side comment with that?
Wow.
I notice a lot of students don't know how to wait at the Alder and 13th intersection, meaning like they never stop on the sensor. So I know there's some signs that like wait on the bicycle symbol. I wonder if we could consider like putting up some like just zip tying some yard signs at that intersection at the beginning of the year.
Wait, sorry, I get.
Or Alder and 13th at the bike signal.
Yeah, but that's a
Weird, it
nightmare.
doesn't always change.
Yeah, you have to be exactly on like the sensor for it to sense you, as opposed to the cameras.
I remind a lot of people about that too.
Yeah.
Me too. Anytime I'm there, I'm like, just so you know, you have to stand on this thing if you wanted to change.
Yeah.
Looking at that little painted bike and. Okay, hi, so I actually have two things to talk to you about tonight. One is bike theft. I mean, we all know that a lot of bikes are stolen in June and the students, as soon as the students come back, we're gonna have many more stolen. But there was one recently that really kind of hit hard to me. There's this little old lady I know. Her name's Clara. I think she's like 88 years old. And she walks some. She's not great at walking, but she has this recumbent electric trike that she rides all over the place. She gets a long way. She's a tough little lady. And so she had ridden her bike down to South Eugene High School, I think all the way from her house in Springfield. And was gonna help with the Obsidians had a work party. They were cleaning up trash along the Amazon bike path. And, okay, she screwed up. She didn't lock her bike, but she left her bike there and walked just over to pick up a piece of trash. And in the space of time that she walked over, picked up a piece of trash and stood up again, her bike had been stolen. And it's like, we're crying out loud, a working utility tricycle from an 88-year-old woman, it's like stolen just right out from under her nose. It's like, how low are we gonna go? I mean, it's really frustrating. So there's that part. The second thing is the Lane Event Center, which, and I think one of your subcommittees might be focusing on this already, but the Lane Events Center, which a lot of us still know is the fairgrounds, presented its master plan for future development to the Board of County Commissioners a week or two ago. And you know, I don't know what will happen on their property, but the one thing that's never going to change is that it's located right in the middle of a continuous north-south bikeway. You can from all the way from down 29th, you can ride Friendly Street all the way up to the fairgrounds. On the other side of the fairgrounds, you're on Monroe. You have a nice, quiet, low traffic street all the way to the riverfront. And a long time ago, they used to actually have an opening, you know, a passageway you could ride straight on through the fairgrounds, which is great. Then, and I understand they, I guess, security reasons, they're saying, yeah, we can't have people coming through our property. So you were meant to make a detour around it. But that detour is never really, if you're coming from the north, it's pretty clear, it's paved, and it's pretty obviously where you go. And then it kind of dumps you out, and it's like, well, I guess I could backtrack over there and get onto the Fern Ridge path, or I could cut across this kind of gravel parking lot over this, you know, it's not even clear where you're supposed to go, and neither of them is very desirable. So if they're gonna make a new plan for them, fairgrounds, I would really like to have.
I think someone was
Oh. I would really like to have just a clear, I mean, it'd be wonderful if they would let us ride right through the fairgrounds. I don't really expect that to happen, but just a clear designated paved desirable way for people to walk or bike all the way, you know, from Friendly Street to connect to Monroe and get wherever they're going. So, I'm part of the Cycle Change, which is part of Better Eugene Springfield Transportation. We sent in some comments to the Board of County Commissioners and the Fair Master Plan people. And a few of us as individuals have written, and the Jefferson Westside neighborhood has also communicated that they want some way to get through the fairgrounds property easily. But I encourage you to weigh in. It would just be tragic for them to make this nice new facility and then, oh, well, good luck getting around it. You know, so.
I have a comment to go with that, which is that it would also be really great to see the plan emphasize getting to the fairgrounds on bicycles. That getting through the fairgrounds, but getting to the fairgrounds, because right now there are scattered bike racks and nothing is signed, and when they have a big event and there's bike parking added. The last one that I went to was Pride, and it was way out in the middle of the parking lot. And the people at the front of the building who were directing traffic didn't even that it was there and I asked for it. And so if we are going to be doing any kind of lobbying, I think that we should include that we have this wonderful facility and resource in the middle of our city. And that it's not hard to get to by bicycling, but it is hard to get to if it is not encouraged.
Do we have any other public comment? We did someone come in.
We did, Logan brought a friend, I guess.
Oh, nice.
Did you have a public comment or you meant it?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, now's your time. They're pretty brief, but
Okay.
we're right here.
So as far as active transportation, there's, how to say, a regression, I'd say, around McCormick Elementary, where they have this new fence and they blocked off a path that is good for walking and, well, walking your bike, you really
Can
shouldn't
I,
bike
can I
there.
pause you real quick? Can you
Yeah.
give me your name and what neighborhood you're from in Eugene?
Yeah, Wade Klein, WADE Klein, CLINE. I am from, I'm currently in the Churchill area, though I was also in Far West now, Chambers, was it Chambers Neighborhood Association? I forget the exact name,
That's all
but the
right.
neighborhood association changed recently,
Okay.
they named it, so it used to be Far West Neighborhood.
Okay,
I'm kind of in an intermittent phase, my dad recently passed, and so I've inherited his house and kind of
okay.
into it right now, so it
Um,
says, West Eugene, Southwest.
Churchill area / West Eugene, sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. You can continue your comment.
Yeah, so basically, there used to be a path you could take to get, I believe, Brittany and McCormick. And you could cut through into Churchill, and they recently put up a large fence blocking it off. And I really don't think there was any, okay, they wanna, put, the area wasn't completely totally fenced, so I understand they want to fence off the play area, but they also blocked off the path, and you could very much fence off the play area while not blocking off the path.
Hmm.
And I talked to them, they said, oh, there are doors and they unlock automatically, hopefully, but then it's like, well, they're gonna lock them at night and when school's in session. But then the problem with that is that, well, if you lock them at night and then school runs until 6 because the after school programs, effectively the path is completely blocked off, especially when you get to winter time. And that's assuming the unlock mechanism actually works. We all know how technology is, it likes to break all the time. So, I very much just, suspect that it's, the only other real ways to get from the south, the area kind of south of 18th to Church Market, you have to walk along 18th, which is loud, you have to deal with all the cars, all the smoke, or you have to go all the way north and then walk around again. So to me, it's just, yeah, it's just, there's no need for them to also block off the path through the school with the fence. And so I was hoping to, well, I wasn't sure who to talk to. I'm sure I could email Forte, but I figured I saw this in the In Motion newsletter. So like, oh, maybe these people will know who to talk to. So
I've been in contact, just to give you a brief response, I've been in contact with the Safe Routes to School coordinator for 4J. Because it's not just this location, 4J has been systematically going across the district and basically fully fencing their entire property.
Mhm.
So any path that goes through a 4J property has been fenced. And this also just happened at Cesar Chavez
Yeah,
as well,
I was gonna
for
say.
that access to. the
yeah, because I
front
noticed
end.
they've done that.
Mhm.
But that one isn't nearly as detrimental because, you can go to Polk.
Yeah, you
and
can
go
go to
through,
Polk.
But they even aren't even fully fencing it off too, because you
Right.
still have like that field that is, let's see, slightly to the north of the school.
Right.
But you know.
So I don't really have like a solution right now. We, like, my team's aware that a couple sort of key active transportation connections have been like, impacted, I guess I could say. And we're not exactly sure what to do because it is 4J property that they're fencing, even though they were these really important connectors. So it's like new. And I think that contacting 4J would be perfectly acceptable for you to do.
Mhm.
I could provide you with the Safe Routes to School coordinator's contact info, and she could be a good place to start.
Yeah, please.
For you to
The
kind of
other
get
thing is
that.
that, even though it's quote unquote fully fenced, it's funny because, you know, the new fence is way high, you can't get over. But the other fence is here, you know, and so if I really wanted to go through, all I'd have to do is hop over that fence, and now I'm cutting through the playground where
Right.
the kids are to get to the door, to get through the
Yeah.
path I want to go
Right.
to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, our team has also been sort of grappling with the consequences of the decision.
Good to know
So-
you're aware of it.
Yeah, I think we probably have to do it, but thank you, then.
Right, we are at time for the public comment.
That's really insightful and useful, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, let me get you the 4J coordinator's email,
Okay.
and then you can contact them. And then we can move on to our next agenda item. How are we doing on
Seems like
time?
it's this
We're-
part, like,
Well, we started
it's
late, so
part two.
we're not doing badly, except that we started late. which is fine.
Maybe
Um,
going to like bus stop or
And
something.
barring any other public comment,
Or maybe.
And I'm ready when
those
you have the email.
residential
Okay.
I
residential.
guess we next just have to approve our.
And if you wanna come over here, I can read it to you, just so I'm not shouting across the.
Next, is just approving.
One letter
our
is
Problem at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it's the loops and
M
cul-de-sacs.
A Z.
Did everyone look
Whatever
at
is in it.
last month's meeting next? I guess we should, if there are any amendments, we should wait for Willow. Did everyone look at last month's meeting now?
No amendments. Sorry.
I did have one comment.
Mhm.
Um,
And
in,
my name's Willow, and you can tell me.
in
Sort of-
Connie's,
Probably for Willow then.
yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming by. I'm glad you saw us in emotion.
Yeah, thanks for letting.
I'm glad people read emotion.
Yeah.
It's pretty informative, actually. It's nice.
Thanks, I'm the one who writes it, so whenever people read it, I'm like, oh, yay. Work isn't for nothing. Uh,
Oh, People refuse to read documentation.
all right, thanks, Wade. Thanks for coming in. You're welcome to sit and observe the meeting if you want to.
right.
Yeah, or you can take off, either way.
Can I eat?
You can
You're
also have
welcome to
snack
eat.
if you would like, yeah, but just as a reminder, since you missed the opening remarks, we're closing the public comment period, so folks who are in attendance aren't allowed to like participate in the conversation after public comment.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
Alan has a comment about our agenda from our meeting notes from last.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, so Connie spoke, had a public comment last week about a near miss on High Street, protected bikeway, and in the notes, it says 13th Avenue, but I'm not actually certain that it was at 13th Avenue, and so I just spoke with Connie to clarify that, and she's gonna contact the person who almost got hit and verify the cross street, because I think it's
Okay.
important that get in the records accurately.
Fair.
So maybe reminder
For next
for
month.
November,
Yeah,
or sorry, October, what month is it? October meeting, reminder for the October meeting to verify that location.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Alan.
Do we have a, okay, motion to approve as amended? After amending,
I motion to approve as amended.
I'll second that motion.
okay. All in favor? Okay,
Sweet.
I think we're good. I don't know what Anya said.
In favor.
There you go. Hey, by the way,
All
please
right.
chime in. I'll try and remind Willow if you're like raising your hand, but you can also just talk, I think.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, now we
And
need
we've
a,
got, just to throw that out there, Abby just logged in as well,
oh,
from
amazing.
online, so.
Oh.
that's-
All right, we actually have. It's like everyone who said they. Everyone who's supposed to. Oh,
We definitely have quorum now.
yeah, fantastic. All right, so next we have our sidewalks letter. Quickly, which.
Yeah,
On the,
I'm happy
yeah,
to,
let's let Nancy do that.
to talk about that. Although, we are the policy sub-team.
Mhm.
of ATC, and the year before I started, there was a lot of action around sidewalk, and even though we have discussed a number of different things to work on in the coming year, we didn't want to let the work session at the city council go without a response from us.
No, the presentation to us.
Nor the that we had to backtrack it, we had the presentation here. And then the city council had a work session on sidewalks that was really the action, the conversation extension and expansion was in large part because of the conversation that the conversation going on here really made a big difference in having that, raising that to invisibility to the city council, among others. And so we worked, we talked about coming up with some asks, because there were no asks at the work session. There was not really any, the presentation I thought was quite excellent. It was very similar to what we received. And so the city council is much better informed because of that. And yet there wasn't any like next steps that really came out of that. And so this little letter, which you see here, is what we decided to do is boil it down to not the full list of things that we think need to happen, nor a range of solutions, but just pick some priorities of things that we thought were actionable that either city council could direct staff to do or staff itself could elect to do without having to be directed. And so here you see the letter. And we started out with a thank you, because we feel like actually that we should express appreciation for how far this has come in terms of just conversation and clarity and people actually talking to each other. So that's the first paragraph, but in the second paragraph is in the short term, we believe it's time to act on several strategies already discussed by the transportation planning team. These are feasible and potentially impactful steps in the right direction. And so these were the three that we picked out, of the curbs, for instance, where I also attend curbs, has a much longer policy statement and has done its own research into a number of these, but this is what we came up with. And the first is a point of sale policy for property owners to repair sidewalks. And to expand on that, that is that when property changes hands is a time that the existing mechanism, which is that property owners are responsible for repairing the sidewalk, the right of way, that could be enforceable at the point of sale. Which would be, if then we could, that would be a clear place that this could be tacked on to all of the transactions and agreements that come up when a piece of property is sold. And then the second one had to do with data collection and tracking of sidewalk repairs, because a number of our questions that came up when city staff met here they had not collected that data. We don't know a lot of, for instance, there hasn't been follow-up on anything except for the sidewalks that the city itself has repaired. And so it would require another team of people, students from U of O or volunteers from Curbs or something to take the information about that was done so well by U of O a few years ago and all of the complaints from the city, and to follow up and see what actually gets taken care of without city action. That would be a valuable piece of information. But boiling it down, improved data collection and tracking of sidewalk repairs and requests. And with an equity lens, there's like deep paragraphs behind that. But honestly, there's some kind of investigation into whether the requests for repair are in alignment with where the sidewalks are the worst, or whether they're in alignment with where particular people who are politically connected and know about the complaint mechanisms and have the time to navigate that. Like, does this match up with where the sidewalks really need to be repaired? And then the next proposal was that the city take on full responsibility for the sidewalk repairs under specific conditions. And here the city, the example that we used was tree roots or other environmental factors. And in the information that came out in the work session, San Francisco has a commitment. That's one example. There were examples for each of these in different cities, that different cities have done this kind of thing. And because the canopy is so important to our climate goals and to our environmental values and to the use of sidewalks in our increasingly hot summer months here, and the quality of life and the aesthetics of every neighborhood, that's a really great place for the city of Eugene to be throwing their resources. But with that, saying that this is a place where sidewalk repair could be something that could get folded into that city priority. And so that was why these three things were chosen. And then with the closing paragraph is ATC commits to reviewing policies and programs as they're designed. We request staff continue to bring regular updates, and then another thank you. And so the open for discussion, and Josh, you know, you can add on to this, is this the substance of a letter that ATC would be willing to send to city staff?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think we did put in the first paragraph is we think there's like there are longer term goals that I'm sure lots of people would like to see of the city being fully responsible for sidewalks, but we understand that that's like complicated and requires a lot of funding. And these are things that, like, particularly staff, I would name Jody as someone who's been working very hard and is like really cool on this. And also, like, these are things Jody researched and has been looking at for like a year, right? So that's like, we didn't really add anything. We're just like, okay, and that there was a lot of support from council for these types of things at the council meeting. So just that this is like, okay, do something now, please. And then we continue conversations, like there's more we don't have to give up on these because we present something like this, but we can also move forward with something rather than getting caught up with like all the other things we'd also like to happen at this moment.
Does anybody have any edits or things they'd like to see in this letter? And if not,
I have a question for you, Nancy, related to a potential conflict between the first and the third strategy. If there was a point of sale policy and a property owner said, well, the city should be taking full responsibility for the repairs or because of tree roots, and they haven't done it. And now I'm on the hook because I'm selling my house. I'm just wondering if that was something that was considered.
I can see that as a potential conflict, and I feel like that's why city staff needs to write this, not us,
Yeah,
you know? That what we're doing is we're saying that in general, we feel like a point of sale policy is one thing, and that there would certainly be, if the city committed to both 1 and 3, that would have to be codified or agreed upon at some level about what happens when the because what that might do is that might mean that the city was then committed when a house is sold to at least getting into a plan or something. But that level of detail, we are cautioned every time we get into it that that's what city staff is for.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is say that of all the things that were presented and all of the things that Jody has been working on and all of the things that Curbs has been agitating about and all of the questions that we've been asking here, that we're just saying we would like to see the city commit to actually taking something either at the statutory level or if it needs to be policy and moving forward with it, and this is what we chose. But I agree with you, and I just think that that could be dealt with without
Yeah.
busting the whole
Right.
project.
Yeah.
I appreciate the brevity and direction of his letter.
Yeah, it's really well written. I like it.
I think
Concise.
we could footnote if you would like, if people think that that would be helpful, but I think that, I don't think. that
I don't
it's
think
super
so,
necessary,
yeah.
because they keep, one of the things that Willow and some of the other staff that come here tell us is, you don't have to write us like treatises showing how smart you are. We all know that this is a well-informed group of people, and that they pretty much understand what we're talking about, and what we're doing here is we're just clarifying what we've decided, what we want them to go forward with. Go
I
ahead.
also think that's why we've kind of included an offer at the end, like, hey, once you write the thing, we'll read it again
Yeah,
for you and tell you if we see
Right.
any problems with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting, just from a staff perspective, getting the ATC being like, these things feel like priorities, that's really helpful. And also Jody will probably watch this exact conversation we're having right now later on YouTube to inform the reception of the letter, so that your comment will be like recorded for her.
I think it's a well-written letter, so I agree with those points. I think I'm just curious about the first bullet point and sort of more logistics about that. Because is the city the one that repairs the sidewalks, or are there
No.
private companies too?
No,
that
it
do
could be either.
Oh,
Yeah, it could be either. Technically, the property owner could DIY it as well, which
Mhm.
usually we don't recommend. Because it has to be kind of like a perfect slope sort of thing. So the point of sale, it would put the property owner in the position of contracting with like a concrete company.
Mhm.
Or connecting with the city and using the city service
Okay,
before their sale can go through.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, actually, there's probably another question of which party is responsible, but also not for us to figure out.
Right, right, and Jody has been looking into the point of sale thing, because it does feel like one of the more promising and realistic options to happen in a shorter term. So if movement happens on that, we could come back and discuss the specifics and sort of beta test it with you all to see.
Yeah.
Where it's, how it's written or where it's landing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that doesn't change anything major. That just says at a certain point, there's gonna be a focus
Yeah,
on actually achieving what we're trying, what is existing code, which is that the property owner is
Yeah,
responsible.
and that's really it. I mean, a lot of us believe the responsibility should lie elsewhere, but we don't even have a good way of enforcing our current system. And that is a policy that has been explored as a time when money is floating around, when inspections are happening anyway, and when people maybe would have trouble affording it, probably could.
I do think we should probably move on
Yeah.
to the next agenda item.
I guess we have to like
so-
officially approve. this.
Yeah, we
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask, yeah, as if,
I move to approve it.
I second.
who said move, was that
Logan,
Logan, thanks. Logan.
second from Ash. All in favor? Everyone at the table and Diane online?
In favor.
Nice. Abby, raise your hand. We're good.
Yeah, also in favor.
Unanimous, great.
Yay.
All right. Now, the rest of the meeting basically is Willow.
Right, I'm not, so it says presenter, but I'm not really presenting both of the next
Oh, that's
agenda
true.
items.
Did everyone get a chance to look at Jody's document that I sent out yesterday?
Yeah, apologies for it being sent late.
It is.
Um,
Quite brief though,
It is only 2.5 pages,
relative.
it's single spaced. So it's dense 2.5 pages.
Relatively brief.
But,
Oh, but we have it.
I can give like a short presentation on just like broadly what this is and what I'm sort of looking for from the discussion. And then we can sort of go through the document and get into specifics. On here, there are some like deliverables, that I think, there's a section of this document that I think would make the most sense for us to focus on. But to zoom out for a second, the city of Eugene received a grant to do planning work for River Road and Highway 99. So planning work means we have money to pay for staff and consultants to look at these two corridors and come up with some ideas on what to do. It does not mean we have funding to actually build anything. The idea behind that is that you do the planning and you gather data and you do community engagement and you come up with some ideas, and then you use those ideas to apply for construction funding. So this is always kind of the first step, especially when we're looking at large corridors like this. It's kind of how the Franklin Boulevard process went to, where we got money to do planning and then we use those plans to apply for money to do building. So River Road and Highway 99 are both extremely tricky corridors. They're high crash corridors, meaning that we have a lot of people who get serious injuries or die on these streets when they're driving, walking, or biking, or using other mobility options. So the city recognizes that there are like those streets aren't serving everyone in the community. So that means that we're looking at doing some changes. The moving ahead, in some ways, we're calling this moving ahead 2.0, which we're not gonna move forward with as a public facing name. Just based on the controversy that was around moving ahead 1.0, but this is kind of a follow-up to the first moving ahead, which looked at some ideas, got pretty significant pushback from the community, and we're like, well, we can't just leave these two streets as they are because people are dying. So we need to move forward and figure out what to do. So this is kind of a follow-up to that. I'll read this paragraph really quick because it kind of shows what we're looking at. So the planning approach will include traffic analysis, safety analysis, community engagement, conceptual design, high-level engineering, and cost estimating. So traffic analysis and safety analysis are really data-driven planning processes where we'll be pulling data and looking at those. And then the community engagement obviously is that more conversation-based, values-based conversation to have with the community on what people want, how the corridor is currently working for them, what are their feelings around changes. Conceptual design is taking those three things and kind of creating an idea of what it might look like if we made changes. And then the high level engineering and cost estimating would be the engineer takes those conceptual designs, does some very high level engineering. So doing some very basic engineering drawings, and then based on that, trying to figure out how much would it actually cost to make the changes to River Road and Highway 90. There's some background that I don't feel like is that important for us to go over. The scope of work might be a good place for us to start. And before we jump into this, I guess the purpose of this conversation and bringing this to you so early, this is kind of I guess this was me pushing to involve ATC super early. I was like, we haven't even started planning. We're just writing a scope for planning. So the idea here is that you can let us know, like, did we capture everything? Like, we're about to get a consultant to help us with this. So is there anything missing that we didn't think of that you think the consultant should look at or help us with? So that's sort of the feedback that I'm looking for. And I'll bring to Jody, who's one of the primary planners on this project. Do you think it would make sense to kind of go through these tasks and hear your feedback, or how exactly, or did people review it and we can just sort of jump into offering feedback? What are people feeling?
I like option one.
Okay, so to go through it. Okay, cool.
Help us out.
Okay, scope of work. So scope of work means we're looking to hire a consultant, so professional planning firm to help us with this. The first thing that they'll do is project management. So that means they're gonna help us coordinate and complete the project deliverables. They will like prepare agendas and have meetings, and they basically keep the project moving forward. Us as staff, it can be really hard for us to do that when we have so many other projects we're working on. So that's like the project management side. The consultant will also do a traffic comfort and safety analysis. Originally, this just said traffic and safety analysis, and our team added comfort. So we felt like that was one of those things where we're like, we're learning and doing good. Because comfort's really important, right? Like traffic and safety are just one piece, but if it doesn't feel nice, then no one's gonna use it. So the consultants will conduct an updated traffic analysis, including data collection. That's looking at speeds and volumes and intersection capacity, lanes, on River Road between Norfolk Expressway and Beacon Drive. So this looks you know, it looks at the current conditions, basically, like what is the speed and volumes on River Road right now? To determine capacity and current demand, like on Franklin, for example, it's 3 lanes in either direction for a lot of it, and when we did the traffic and speed analysis, it was determined that 3 lanes is more than the street needs for the current volumes and for future volumes, so we were able to use that extra lane to look at adding those new facilities, so perhaps we'll find something similar on River Road. Maybe it'll even be different for different segments, because that's typically what we find is between these streets, it's one thing, between the other streets. it's something else. Perhaps bus and turn only lanes, like what we put on MLK, perhaps protected bike lanes, maybe roundabouts, that's the purpose of this, maybe medians, that's the purpose of this planning, is like what would work on River Road. Let's see. That's kind of the same, I think I mostly talked about that. For safety analysis, summarize crash records and conflict points, review fatal and level A injury crashes. Level A injury crashes are severe injuries, ones that sort of change the course of someone's life, compared to level B injuries, which are something someone can fully recover from. Going back 10 years, we often review level B injury crashes for people walking and biking, because one minor change in that crash could have resulted in a level A crash or fatality because of the vulnerable nature of a person walking or biking. So this says potentially, but that would be a place where HEC could be like, we want that to be definitely, or just reviewed.
Data do we have on that?
We have if it was reported, we have the data. Yeah, if
I
it wasn't
just wonder
reported, we
about
don't have it.
the level B crashes that are not reported.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, there's no way for us to have record of things that aren't reported. It's one of the reasons we try to do education around, like, if you get a minor injury, like, file a report so that we can have it in the data.
Is
there
a level lower than B, or is it just B? Is B the lowest?
B is the lowest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would just like to point out that B-level crashes change people's behavior. They stop walking, they stop biking. And that we need to, I wouldn't count it, because the number of people who tell me that they had one injury or one scare or one fender clip walking and biking and they don't do it anymore is incredibly significant. I would definitely include that.
actually.
Willow, I do have a question about the data that'll be collected for comfort on the roads. Like, what kinds of criteria is there?
Great question. Let's see if that comes up in these bullet points, because I think we're in the conduct corridor safety analysis bullet points. Let's see. Conduct bicycle pedestrian level of service analysis, I think, is where we might get into a little bit of that comfort stuff, so we'll get there. Okay.
Well, but just a quick question on accounting the traffic. Does that include also like pedestrian and bike traffic? Do you collect
No,
usage data?
typically doesn't, because oftentimes we don't have that data. We could put out bike counter, like we could pursue that data, but I think in some ways some of my team members might correct me on this, but I'll just give you my sense of how we use like pedestrian and bicycle traffic counts in our planning. Typically we're in the mindset like more is better. And if we counted it, we'd probably find that it's like low or medium amount of people walking and biking, and that doesn't really affect the plan so much. It's just like, we want to plan for the most comfortable, best experience, and hopefully it goes up, but understanding the current amount.
Especially in places where there's very little good bike infrastructure.
Right, we'd be like, oh, there's 3 people who bike on this a day, like, our goal is to make the biking better regardless of the current amount of people, so that's kind of my understanding.
It wouldn't affect the decision, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yes.
I think that because comfort is a new addition to this, that a bullet point or a sentence about what we mean when we say comfort might be really helpful, because what we're talking about is the out of car experience,
Mhm.
or what I would hope we're talking about, not how easy it is to drive down River Road. Because, I mean, that's a livability issue, you know, as someone who lives right off of River Road,
Mhm.
you know, the comfort is, oh, you know, I accept that as the word, but I think that to be really clear that it's a livability issue about the being able to actually access the commercial businesses on that street and being willing to cross the street to go to the elementary school.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I added that comment about defining it somewhere.
Yeah, because what comes to mind for me in particular with River Road and 99 and comfort is noise. I don't know if that would be a useful metric or any data to do anything with, but thinking about noise levels on those roads and pedestrian and bike interactions with those environments.
Just get that comment, comfort analysis. We'll get into this comfort analysis piece once we get to last few bullet points, but I wanted to just capture this. Okay. Conduct a crossing gaps analysis to identify appropriate pedestrian crossing spacing and treatment types to facilitate safe access to bus stops, access points to shared use path network, and other commercial and non-commercial destinations. Consider alternative treatments to RFBs, or those flashing crosswalks, such as full pedestrian signals, hybrid beacons, or taller overhead RFBs. I think the reason why we have this in here is because we've been using RFBs pretty successfully across town, but we find on these larger volume streets that they may not be the best treatment. And sometimes consultants are like, use an RFB. And we're like, okay, yes, that is sort of the obvious choice, but let's consider maybe slightly more robust options. Recommend treatments to reduce pedestrian exposure where appropriate, such as pedestrian islands, Z crossings, other maybe innovative ideas.
I know I'm saying a lot, but I live near River Road.
Yes.
I would love for this to, rather than say commercial and non-commercial, for it to say commercial schools and other non-commercial destinations, because we've got both North Eugene High School and Camino River Road School that are right there, and I think that that would help people keep the children and families in mind.
Great. Summarize speeding hotspots, develop speed management and roadway treatment recommendations to ensure safety for all road users, including people walking and riding bikes to and from bus stops. Evaluate opportunities to repurpose road space where capacity exists. For example, opportunities to install medians, remove pull-out bus lanes when speeds allow for safe in-lane stopping, and replace with in-lane bus stops and or floating bus stops or other designs on River Road.
I don't live off of River Road,
That's
but I
okay.
know it's a major corridor. Is there any possibility that we could have like a dedicated bus lane? I think you mentioned that with bat lanes or
Mhm.
something, but like a bus only lane, is that possible?
It is, yes, it's absolutely possible. And when we're in this planning stage, I think that's kind of the idea is like, you know, trying to figure out how possible, you know, 'cause like right now it's sort of anything's possible. So that's where all this data analysis and community engagement comes in to figure out like, how possible would that be? Would, you know, and is it something worth pursuing? So it is bat lanes are listed in here as a potential option. Yeah.
Down here on evaluate opportunities to repurpose, what I'm seeing is I don't see anything here in a speed analysis of the necessity of the speed limit on that road, because you've got remove pull-out bus lanes when speeds allow, which has an assumption that that we've already examined speed allowance, and I think that that needs to be in there somewhere, because that is a big controversy between neighbors and the people who just use that as a corridor to get up to the Belt Line, is how fast should that road be? And it needs to be addressed in any kind of scoping you're doing.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that after, you know, last month's presentation from Logan, that it's our 40 mile per hour corridors where most people are dying, and these are both currently 40-mile-per-hour corridors, and I would argue they shouldn't be. And I feel like, you know, if speeds are too fast for a bus to be safe, maybe that means it's not a safe place for a person just walking to.
Yeah,
And to just jump on that, the repurposing road space where capacity exists is a way of reducing speed by making it less easy to speed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a little backwards. The
Yes.
evaluate piece
Okay.
should start with the safety issue of unnecessary speed could be evaluate mitigation possibilities with something to, understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I
A
wanted
way
to-
of turning that
yeah.
around.
I wanted to piggyback on that. I was gonna say something very similar. We even, there was even this webinar a few months ago where they talked about RFBs, but versus also like road conditions largely at night on a dangerous street. And they basically said multi-lane directional streets, which is something one of my hobby horses. So I feel like something that just, I love this repurposing road space. I like what Nancy just said, and something about opportunities for removing lanes, like,
Mhm.
cause it just says replacing bus lanes, we just say anything, but what about like? The most effective things to get people to drive slower are getting rid of some lanes. Like, and I'm not saying, oh, I know we have to research to find that, but we can't like take that out of the scope of like the idea to begin with, like.
Yeah, a goal, when one of our goals is safety, one of our goals should be, can this road be designed so that people don't speed on it? And can you look at the speed limit? And is that an appropriate speed limit? Because first of all, they're already speeding
Yeah.
above what Peter was saying he considers an above necessary speed limit. And I'm just keep.
Yeah, another thing is, I noticed like talking about whether we can reduce the amount of lanes is often talking about like, oh, what's the capacity now and what's the capacity in the future? And I find it frustrating when we are always predicting the amount of people driving going up when our goals in the city of Eugene is to reduce the amount of vehicles miles traveled. And so if our goals are to reduce the amount of vehicle miles traveled and the amount of people that are driving on all streets, including River Road, perhaps we should be in our engineering predictions saying that less people are going to be on this street in 20 years driving because that is what our goal is. And shouldn't we be planning for our goals to be successful and not planning to fail? And so as kind of a frustration with some of these engineering models of like whether you can reduce lanes is I think we should reduce the lanes and people would drive less and respond.
You can keep going. I'll save mine for
Well, I would point out it is 6:30, which is supposed to be our break.
Um,
And normally I would say we shouldn't break, but I would suggest possibly that we do anyway, because our next item is so closely related to this,
it's on River Road.
because it's right on River Road in this high crash corridor.
Yeah, let's go ahead and maybe we just take our break right now mid-conversation and then people can do what they need to do and come back in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay, and we can sort of keep moving on this and.
and tie the next item right into it.
Okay, yeah,
I did that
don't,
ride yesterday.
I think this
and-
is our chance to go over this and I think this conversation's been really useful, so I don't want to truncate this agenda item. I think we should.
No, not at all.
Okay, okay,
I
great.
think
Well, let's come back.
I just think the
at
next one will be
6:35.
very smoothly connected.
Perfect.
I have too many thoughts.
You better, since you're gonna be working on it.
Exactly. Now
Thing about entrances needing to be on the sidewalk, is that any,
Rolling here, 'cause we're a little- we're already-
that any new construction that way?
I think it's all new construction,
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
but it may just be.
Okay, all right. I think we're, mostly back. Yeah, no, we're all back. Well,
I'm back.
yeah, Nancy.
Okay, let's talk about the, comfort and bicycle fed stuff, because I think that's one of the big things that we're interested in.
Can I add one comment, since
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it, but I just haven't been able to interject. Something more like logistical, I guess, for the scope of work is having like a analysis, like something safety analysis wise, or just in general of like a similar road in a different city. Where you can do like a best case scenario or a different use case example where something has decreased pedestrian cyclist deaths because the road was improved and these are the improvements that were made, et cetera. I think having something to look at as a success criteria is really helpful and motivating to get the project to where it wants to go.
Great. Good idea.
So that's my comment.
We also have Abby on here. Abby, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay, yeah, I apologize if this is out of the scope of the data that will be looked into, but going back to Vision Zero's presentation about Highway 99, in particular, before we move on to River Road and the role that dim lighting played. So if there's an ability to look into if the budget or the scope of this work would allow for any lighting replacements, but I know lighting may not be the city, it may be eWeb and other companies, but just considerations about what this project could do about the lighting that's leading to deaths.
So overhead lighting is a city, like the city is responsible for overhead lighting. And we do have a little bullet point here, so I'll just sort of make sure that it's like, to capture your comments, sort of review the current conditions of lighting.
I also that late night webinar that was hosted talked about lighting a lot. Because it was about dark conditions specifically, when actually the majority of like fatalities tend to happen. I don't know if that's what our data said, although I wouldn't be surprised if it is. But a huge takeaway for them was that lighting plays into all these other conditions, and they always said lighting is extremely important and insufficient. Was like a major comment that they made, kind of hammering home.
Great. Okay. Conduct bicycle pedestrian level of service analysis or equivalent for River Road. So this bicycle pedestrian level of service analysis is like a established thing that planners use. So that's why we have it on there, and then we say or equivalent, because I think we're wanting to like do that, but also maybe have opportunity for even more. So I'm actually noticing, Alan, that your card is turned before I start.
Whenever.
talking. Okay, let me get through maybe these couple bullet points and then we can discuss this sort of
Yeah.
section overall. Okay, conduct a comfort analysis of existing roadways included in the traffic study, so it's the road harmony. This may resemble a level of service analysis for bicycle comfort and a separate analysis for pedestrian comfort or some other analysis suitable for comparing different segments along each corridor. The purpose of this bullet point is like, there's not an established thing for comfort analysis. It doesn't really exist. So this bullet point is kind of capturing like the consultant should pick some criteria and help us figure out what exactly we mean when we say comfort, because we don't have a definition for it exactly. And we don't have clear data points that help us understand that. So the next bullet point gives some ideas. Analysis components may include quantity of shade trees, availability of overhead lighting, available setback from the street, and or other metrics that capture the condition of the corridor for people walking and biking. So under this other metrics, noise was one of the things that somebody mentioned. I'm curious if, I know we have a couple things, but if there's other things that immediately pop to mind for other metrics for comfort that people might want me to capture.
Surface quality.
Yeah.
Number of curb cuts.
Clear signage, I mean, safety and comfort.
No, but that's absolutely wayfinding.
So,
Other
yeah,
vegetation.
yeah.
I mean, scents matter to me. It's opening up a whole can of worms.
Worth putting on there though.
Oh, then
maybe
they can't.
something- Maybe something obvious that could be.
I don't know, right, yeah, actually riding to that intersection, that is our next topic of discussion, was very insightful to this.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that for now.
How long you have to wait for a crosswalk?
Oh, yeah.
Did you still have something?
Yes.
Okay, and Peter, we have Alan and Peter wanting to say things.
Okay. I'll just read this last bullet point, summarize the findings in a quarter map for each study area. So create us some kind of deliverable, some kind of map that sort of shows like comfortable, comfortable, not comfortable, not comfortable, here are the things and why.
One other thing would be visibility at corners, like with street parking or something.
Yeah, we call that, our plannerly term is daylighting.
Also think, I don't know what term there is for this, but how close the cars are driving to the sidewalk. Like, is there some sort of buffer between the humans and the metal?
Okay, so there's a broader comment in this particular section is there's no discussion of alternate routes, alternate corridors. I can only think of one, but it's a significant one, and that is Bethel Drive as an alternative to River Road. And that's actually relevant because it's gonna be the bond funding is gonna be used to repave it in 2 years.
Well, and also I think that the connectivity on the river path is not irrelevant to what you just said.
I think it mentions connectivity somewhere in
So-
that document, but I'm not certain.
I think it does, but
But it doesn't talk about alternative routes. There's also, I mean, this is a long-term possibility. If there's a local rail corridor that's parallel to Highway 99, it's not the main line. And we don't know that that's always gonna be there. That may get abandoned, and that may be a real good route someday.
When you say alternate routes, you mean for walking, biking, or
Yeah.
to funnel the cars through?
I meant for walking and
Oh,
biking,
okay,
yeah. Mhm. I mean, maybe she does not say alternate, but then additional.
Mhm.
So-
And your comment there is kind of like, your point is sort of Bethel Drive is slated for paving in the next couple of years, and it's important to look at.
How can then that be
how can that
designed?
be designed for walking and biking,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, designing Bethel Drive like Howard would be really awesome if
Mhm.
we had the funding for that.
Mhm. Yeah, Howard is great, I want Howard everywhere.
Yeah.
Are we feeling like, so that was task two, I feel like is kind of the sort of the bread and butter of like, what are we gonna look at for this?
Yeah, I did have, I comment on.
Oh,
task
yeah,
two, yeah.
sorry.
So, I see River Road is clearly defined as Northwest Expressway to Beacon. I never see that definition with Highway 99, and I think that's particularly important because if I'm biking to Bethel, which I don't do often because it's not very comfortable, the biggest trouble I have is getting to the start of the path at Fifth Ave and Seventh Ave. And that maybe, I don't want the consultant to think of only north of that, because that's where like Highway 99 ends. But getting from Broadway, which is like our neighborhood greenway in the area, to the beginning of that path, currently, there is no connection. Or if you're in the Whitaker trying to get to that path,
Yeah.
there is no connection. And so I would love if the scope included, how would you bike from Highway 99 to downtown, or at least just get you on Broadway or some
Well,
other.
crossing 99,
Yeah.
like Bethel is like no man's land if you just have had a bad experience crossing 99. That's
Yeah,
a B.
Yeah.
A B crash or a near miss.
yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. comment. Yeah, you're right, and it doesn't define Highway 99 anywhere, so. Okay. Okay, so task 2 was looking at all the stuff. Task 3 is taking all that stuff and making some concepts, some design concepts. So I'm not sure if I need to read this whole thing, but this is basically like, all right, based on everything we've collected, what would the consultant recommend we do on these 2 corridors? That addresses transit and safety needs, from the finding comfort and safety analysis and the community engagement, which is the next step. Some of the things we've listed here. 1, transit priority treatments such as improved intersection controls and dedicated bus lanes to improve bus speed and reliability. 2, transit access and active transportation improvements such as enhanced crossings, protected bike lanes, enhanced bikeways. We put protected bike lanes and enhanced bikeways because they're kind of 2 different things. Should look at considering both or either. And then other transportation, safety and comfort investments on the corridor. Like
As speed reduction.
Future overhead lighting and other concepts, okay.
Question on that. When we're talking about speed reduction, is there more, are we doing more to that than just like putting a sign with a lower number? Are we actually like narrowing lanes and putting stuff on the side of the road, that sort of thing?
So
What is that?
speed reduction in this case would be lowering the number.
Okay.
I think number 3, well, actually, number 1, 2, and 3, those would be the design elements that would
Okay.
result in lower speeds. And I think that's where the conversation is kind of tricky, and sort of what Nancy's getting at is like the designing for the current speed limit, or looking at lowering the speed limit and then designing for the lower speed limit. And I think that's why Nancy was saying, like, look at the speed first, figure out what the speed limit should be, and then design for that speed limit. Because if we design for a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit, looks a lot different than a 30-mile-per-hour speed.
Well,
limit.
people also drive 50 in a
50.
40 zone.
Right.
So designing for a street that even forces you to actually drive
drive
40
Right.
is different than our current situation.
Yeah, and different than the engineering standards, which are usually if a speed limit is 40, you design for 50, which don't get me started on why that is. It's like just an old school mindset that's been around for a long time and has gotten us into this situation.
Yeah.
Speeding.
Into the speeding situation that we're
So maybe not using that standard.
in. Yeah, avoiding that 85th percentile standard.
Yes.
I can put that on there.
I would say Willow here as well with design concept development. Someone at the Vision Zero meeting had brought up that there are a lot of social services on Highway 99. So if there are any design elements that could be considered of just indicating that there are social services there and there may be increased pedestrian traffic, with like identifying potentials for more pedestrian crossings, just if there's any design elements that could indicate, hey, there may be more people walking here.
That is a good point that maybe we should mention somewhere to target these interventions in the air. What is the area that has most of the services? But there's like a couple. Yeah, like Four Corners, I think, is where most of the social services are. So maybe we should target interventions there.
Yeah, I don't think that's like clearly called out in this scope. It might be worthwhile. Jody did say in her email that we're still super early in the
Yeah.
scope development stages, so some of this stuff may get in there eventually from other partners, but I think you all talking about this is really handy and can sort of start those conversations.
What kind of piggyback on that is special needs in certain areas of River Road. And so, for example, there's a huge retirement home on River Road right past the belt line. There's actually several of them, and the social services, there might be more people in wheelchairs, so to identify places where there might need to be certain kinds of accommodations.
I don't know where this falls into that, but it also occurs to me when we're looking for like funding that you might also, hopefully, community development might be a partner in the project if those elements were related.
We'll move on to task 4.
Absolutely.
All right, develop and execute a collaborative, equitable community engagement plan that builds on recent engagement efforts and engages with traditionally underserved communities. Collaborate with community members to ensure design concepts reflect community priorities for corridor design, include effective public engagement strategies such as intercept surveys, focus group meetings, and publicly accessible input maps to ensure communication with diverse transportation users. Community engagement's a really tricky part of doing planning because you hear everything. So it's hard to like community priorities for corridor design is really hard to define because there's so many competing priorities based on the different communities. But curious if folks have initial thoughts on this task.
I think we can move those out later.
Okay, yeah, this sort of gets the main points and then that specific stuff can be built out and the consultant develop and execute. That's kind of their thing, is to build this community engagement campaign and help us execute it. And we'll bring, as we get deeper in, we'll bring a more, full informed community engagement plan to you all for feedback.
And because we are community engagement.
Yes, you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say just that I think we all really appreciate this being brought so early. I think we've been begging for things like that for a really long time, so.
Yeah.
Like, hats off. And I would say in that element, just having ways of like ranking priorities and explaining later why they were ranked that way is useful, because everyone loves to yell at you, but when you're like, well, we cared more about the safety of people not dying than like certain people's feelings. That's like can be hard to argue with, but you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Does community engagement focus on like the neighborhood that the road is in primarily? Will they have like a higher priority of
Typically.
community engagement?
Mhm, typically, that's the case, yeah. So like when we were looking at 24th Avenue, like the engagement for folks who live on and near 24th Avenue is like prioritized.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing that matters by any means, but those people do interact with it daily. So their opinions tend to be, prioritized over others.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's always a tricky part because everyone uses the
Yeah.
roads,
Somebody
just
could-
because you
somebody
live
could move
there.
there.
Yeah, exactly. But still, when you do live there, you kind of have a
Mhm.
slightly more, you're a little bit more impacted by the changes.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like schedule and stuff. I sort of feel like we've done what we needed to do with this. Are people feeling good about that? Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and save this document. Move on. If you see comments, and I'll share it with my team. Okay. Okay. We are a little bit, we're pretty behind.
We just use the time for the next item on that item, but
What's that?
we just used all the time for the next item on that item.
We did, which felt important. I think that,
But there are 25 minutes that are unallocated, right? Yeah.
no, we have the protected intersection discussion, ATC recruitment, and the project updates.
What's happening between 7 and 7:25?
Oh, that's just me making a mistake on the. agenda.
Right.
Free time.
Wow, Peter, you're magic. You just created 20 minutes.
There you go.
That's really funny. I don't know how neither me, Charlie, or Josh caught that.
Throw us under the bus.
But we're gonna need more than 5 minutes for all those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will.
Okay, so let me.
20 minutes, 25 minutes.
In fairness, maybe because I hadn't even commented on the agenda when you sent it out.
You know what? You're 100% right. I just kind of sent it on that.
Though I did comment after you sent it and say I had not seen anything, so.
Let's go.
Great, so we can just do our other item, but I think maybe we should try and still do it pretty quickly if we can. I think it's related really a lot to the items we just discussed. And we'll only really shed light on that, so maybe we'll only spend half the amount of time on it.
So I would love to see a show of hands on who has gone out and, so we're transitioning topics to the discussion about the protected intersection on River Road and the Irving and Hunsaker, so River Road at Irving/Hunsaker. Who has gone out there and ridden it or like seen it in person?
I did yesterday.
You did, okay, and Nancy and Sue have seen it, okay, Abby, did you see it too? I think that's what you're raising your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, hey,
Cool. I went out and rode the intersection with our drone operator and had him follow me, so I have some drone footage that I thought I could show. That I thought I could show for the folks who haven't been able to get out there.
that's pretty cool.
It was really cool, and it was my first time doing, like, he had told me, he's like, I'm able to do drone stuff now, and this was my first one, so I thought I'd show a little.
Get the popcorn.
Okay, drone footage is so cool, you guys.
Tell us what road we're on.
Oh, okay, this is River Road right here. This is Irving going I guess that would be going west, and this is Hunsaker going east. So, and this is north. No, yeah, north of this way, and then if you pass south.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you,
Yeah.
Look how tiny I am.
Giant
So
monsters
bright, though.
that have all that space.
So here I am pressing the button to get the crosswalk. You'll notice, I actually can talk through some of this. You'll notice that this came up, which is a no right turn. That only comes up if someone has pressed the button and initiated the crosswalk. So I'm gonna give some context for this, and then we can start to get feedback on it. Like that.
Because I also didn't understand I didn't understand all the signals when I was out there.
So I pressed the button, I got the green walk signal. This came on and didn't let people turn right while I was crossing.
And there's a bike signal, but they are not operational.
The bike signal is bagged. When you were out there yesterday, is it still bagged?
It's still bagged.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
so
still
I'm
bagged.
not sure what the plan is. So we might be able to have this discussion again, once those bike signals turn on and we see sort of how they operate.
A right turn on red is allowed if nobody has pressed the button.
If no one has pressed the button, the walking signal doesn't come up and right turn is allowed.
But the right turn signal still says red. There's a little right turn, that's
That
red.
guy.
And that is completely, that shouldn't be there because
It shouldn't be there.
it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
What
There's some-
what should it be?
It just, if it wasn't there, like, it's not a dedicated right turn lane. So So initially, when this intersection was first designed and installed, this wasn't needed because if you have a right turn arrow and it's red, you're not allowed to turn right on red. That's like the way it is.
In the
You can turn
skateboard,
right
and
on
you
a
can.
red
No,
arrow, you
no,
can turn right on a
you
red
can't.
ball.
People do though, people do
Yeah.
anyway.
You can turn right on a red ball, but I'm pretty sure you
Not the
can't
same,
turn
is it?
right on. a
People
red.
do, and it's never enforced.
And
But-
that's why it
No,
shouldn't be
that's
there.
different in California and Oregon, I thought. Okay.
I don't
So, yeah, maybe look it up.
It's a free, shouldn't be there.
Maybe I'm
because
wrong.
it's not followed.
A lot of people don't follow this rule.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't follow this rule, and I've never seen it enforced. But. that's a
So
different issue.
I
anyway,
usually don't.
there's a few sort of weird things about this intersection because when you allow right turn on red, you're putting people walking and biking at risk. Especially when they have a green walk signal and you can turn right. That's confusing. And so when you build a protected intersection, usually you don't have, like, the right turn is it's a protected right turn. You have to wait till you get your green turn arrow and then you get to turn right, and that makes sure that the people walking and biking have cleared the intersection. That was how this was when we first installed it, and it created very significant congestion with pretty minimal benefit because the amount of people who walk and bike at this intersection is quite low. So it was creating these really large lines of people wanting to turn right for kind of no reason, not no reason, but for a minimal safety benefit. So the city installed these right turn arrows so that when it turns off, now people can make their right turn, even when it's red, meaning they still have to look and make sure no one's coming, but it gives them, so it's a little tricky and we're beta testing it. So this is one of those things that we can get feedback on. It's like, what do you guys think of this? So I'm gonna hit play, we'll keep cruising here.
Wait, so the first version was just, automatically it would be like, you can't turn right on red,
Can't turn
even
right.
if nobody was in
Even if
there.
nobody was there.
Okay, now it's just when somebody's in there.
Just when someone's there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good improvement.
Okay, so now I've hit the next button because I'm making a protected left turn. If you were a confident cyclist and you're in this bike lane, if you wanted to shoulder check and get into the left turn lane and just make a left turn, you can do that.
Mhm.
But this is creating an opportunity where you come here, you can go straight, hit the button again, go left, and now you're on the other side of the street in your left turn lane without ever having to enter the intersection. So the purpose of this isn't to force bikers to do this, it's to give them the option to do that, but you can also take the turn lane if you want to.
So if you take the middle turn lane, do you then turn into the green space, or where do you go from there?
Like if you were to get in here,
Yeah,
you would basically act like a person driving a vehicle.
Yeah,
You're a vehicular
go all the
cyclist.
way through the intersection.
So you would go all the way into the middle and around into the outer.
It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. There's a reason why
There's 4 lanes.
people
of
don't
traffic.
want to do that, and why why protected intersections are useful is because it gives you the option to never enter the middle of the intersection.
Mhm.
You can stay on the outside the entire time. So what it does do is
Takes a very long time
it
to get
takes a
through
very
this
long time
intersection.
for it to happen, because for me, if I wanted to just get over here, I could have come in here. And they immediately get a green arrow, like a minute, they'd be a minute ahead of me. So there are trade-offs to the speed of getting through an intersection, because I could have come over here and just turned and been on my merry way. But I would have had to navigate all of these cars, look how tiny I am. And then be in the center of this intersection with all that movement.
Hmm.
So here, I'm just gonna speed this along. So here I am still waiting. It didn't feel that long, like the experience of it wasn't that big of a deal, especially because I was in such a safe, sort of comfortable place. That just standing there. and
When
waiting
there's a
for
couple
those
of
cars
bikes,
going across there,
then it kind of impinges on people.
Oh, if
If there's more than one
if
bike.
people are
waiting.
queuing here.
Mm.
And that happened when I was doing
Mhm.
this, is that there was me and another person. There were no pedestrians, but we would have totally been in somebody's way.
Mm.
Or someone who was going straight across and not trying to turn left, we would have either been in the way of the cyclist going straight
Mhm.
down Irving, or we would have been in the way of people walking.
Yeah, so if a cyclist wants to go the other way, you just gotta like improvise.
Get out.
Like theoretically, if I'm right here and they're coming down here, you just sort of yield to each other.
Or if when you were waiting to cross on the last one, they wanted to turn right, you just have to kind of.
I just sort of, yeah, I mean, if they were coming, this one's going this way, but if they were here and they wanted to turn there.
It's
Yeah.
safe though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's protected, and that's sort of the philosophy behind building walking and biking infrastructure, is that people walking and biking can interact with each other very easily.
Mhm.
It's typically slow speeds, you're not in a car, so the coordination is very simple, you can communicate just with some eye contact. It's different, like, and that's why bikes and people walking and biking don't require so much space, because you don't have to give everyone their own separate lane.
Mhm.
You can kind of put them all in the same spot, and theory is that they interact relatively well together. High speed e-bikes are maybe changing that conversation a little bit, but that's sort of a slightly different topic. So anyway, here I am, I've made my left turn, and now I'm just biking down the road in a terrifying painted bike lane. After my nice, beautiful experience in the protected intersection. Okay, so that's the overview for those of you who
That
haven't
was
been
super
out
fun.
there. I have a ton of drone footage of this intersection.
Well, you may keep up with just the picture. Oh, you have more footage.
I was thinking a bird's eye
Oh, yeah.
might be helpful for sort of talking about it more broadly, potentially. I could pull up the other one too.
So the space where there's like, lines of green paint instead of a solid, That's
Sidewalk.
where a car can come out.
Yeah, those are like little
Okay.
strip malls.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
those are driveways.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that
Yeah.
on Irving. It looks like that first part of the intersection is striped in that way, but then the second access into that parking lot is not. Is that just kind of where the project ended?
Right, yeah, that's where the project ended,
Is
so
that-
it kind of only goes a couple hundred feet past the intersection and then it just turns into a regular bike lane again.
Got it. Okay. And with the truck skirts, I have a friend that lives a couple intersections up from this, and they've lived there for about a year and a half. And I was the one to tell them what they were, and it was like, oh, that's what those are for. So how is, yeah, the interaction with the truck skirts been, and is there anything that I guess we could do to get the information out to people who interface with the road about how to interact with them?
Right, yeah, I'll go ahead and just play this video while we're talking, because it's 3 minutes long, so we can just kind of have it going. I was just asking about the truck aprons, which are the red curb.
Totally.
So the purpose of the red curb sort of sticking out into the intersection is to require people to make a tight turn, and in order to make a tight turn, it has to be a
Slow down.
slow turn. You can't really make a tight turn going fast. It's been a big adjustment for the community of people who use this street in their cars.
There's one.
Right.
So there's a little lip, you can drive over it, it is designed to be driven on by large vehicles. It's not necessary to drive on it with a small vehicle, but people have been. That's fine, like they can do that if they want to, but that's not the intention. The intention is for them to drive around the red unless they're driving a larger vehicle or towing.
I think that, the actual buffer, which is those white lozenge shapes. That if there was something 3D there, like planters. Or, brightly colored bollards or something like that, that would call more attention to this truck. Skirt and feel safer for being on a bicycle and would help.
Right, so. Because those are like the like sidewalk style,
Yeah.
like it's not meant to be walked on, but it's built out of the.
Yeah,
same
but I'm just
material
saying
as
that in terms of actually slowing traffic down
Right.
and getting.
If they had a
people-
vertical element.
They had a vertical element, the truckster will stay there, because I did see a lot of
Like that
trucks
person did it right.
doing that, but I think that it would also help slow down traffic and maybe get people to understand that the intersection had changed if they're a driver. Right.
Yeah, I second that with differentiating the space on that island.
With the truck skirts, I'm a little confused so the truck skirt is to slow down cars when they're turning to make it safer for when they're interacting with bikes or pedestrians in the crosswalk. But the current configuration of the lights, that interaction should never happen, right? Because the pedestrians are always going to be crossing when the car has a right turn on red and a no, do not turn sign. And so I'm wondering if the signals don't have to be so restrictive to prevent that movement from ever happening, now that we've designed the intersection to kind of allow that interaction to happen safely. You
Yeah,
know,
that's a really interesting point, because like, for example, with this blue truck here.
Yeah.
The idea is that. They are going over this a bit, but if they had come out and straightened up, when they get to this crosswalk where there's a person walking or a person biking, they're looking straight ahead. So their entire windshield is available for them to see the people in the crosswalk, and that was how this was
Mhm.
designed. We're in a standard intersection, when you make your right turn. You're going over the crosswalk through your side, the side of your car is moving through the crosswalk, so it's a lot harder to see people in it because there's a blind spot. Or you're looking out your side window to see if it's clear, so the design of the intersection tees up the cars to the crosswalk. That's like the design, and so what you're saying is, if that's the case, then why do we also have these signals restricting that movement?
Yeah.
It creates a longer wait time for people walking and biking.
yeah, and for people.
And for people driving,
Like-
it introduces delay when the design of the intersection was designed for safety.
Right.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's really interesting, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah.
you're bicycling and coming from direction and there's a green light, I would continue to go straight. And I'm not gonna just sit there and wait at the intersection and wait
Yeah.
for the bicycle, unless there's a separate bicycle signal that's red.
Yeah.
Are there separate bicycle? signals?
Currently, you have to cross with the
The
pedestrian signal,
Yeah.
signal, and you don't get one if you don't press the
Well,
button.
how would you
So
know that?
Currently. Yeah, no, this thing was confusing as shit. I didn't understand how the signals work at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was like,
Yeah,
I'm a cautious person in places like this, and I was like, I'm crossing with the pedestrian, and then I saw that the bike signal is still bagged. And you know when you're out there that you can't cross with cars, because you can't cross with cars.
so there is a bicycle signal.
There are
But it's
bicycle
bagged.
signals installed, but they're bagged right
I
now. They
see.
haven't been turned
I
on.
see, so
Yeah.
presumably they would have a red light when a right-hand turn for automobiles would be green.
Correct.
But it still felt a little weird, like, because it was like, won't it be green at the same time as pedestrians anyway? And then I thought, not all our bike signals and our pedestrians are green at the same time. But then I thought, how long is it gonna take to get through this signal, like, in the long run? Like, is it gonna be even worse when those bike signals work? Is it gonna be better? Are there, I think we were back to our signals conversation,
Mhm.
like,
Which I have an
none
update for you on, by the way, if we have time.
of these ever prioritize pedestrians and bikers, even the ones that do have, actually, none of them ever prioritize pedestrians, even the ones that do have like safety features for them.
Well, I think that Peter's point is really good, where like the design is prioritizing safety, so why are the signals also prioritizing safety? And like, can that delay be eliminated since the design is making people perpendicular? Okay, other thoughts or feedback on this?
I looked at ODOT and you can turn right on red light on a red
On a red
arrow in the state of Oregon. Not in the state of California, so a lot of people who move here from California don't know, but according to Oregon.gov, the same turns allowed for a steady red signal are allowed for a red arrow.
Okay, so that's where that no right on red. I think that's
I
why,
don't know
because
what that
otherwise we
means.
wouldn't have done that. It would be redundant. Yeah. Okay, good to know.
I just think there's more comments though.
I do think it's very
I think they should
confusing.
just.
That is very confusing.
Gar-
Should take it
I
out,
think on
'cause it's just
Garfield.
annoying the
Turn
driving.
right.
It is
For
annoying.
no reason, for no reason.
Well, in,
Seventh, there's
Yeah.
a red arrow.
okay, that's good feedback. Yeah. the red
Normally, there's
does-
also a sign that says no turn on red.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did have more thoughts and they were, I don't think we should discuss them extensively because they are like way off in the woods, but I just, getting there was so much of a, like. When you said, oh, and I'm back, I mean, you said, you're like, and I'm back in no man's land, like, there between. Honestly, I took the bike path as far as I could, which is about to River Avenue, and so right before Beltline. You get from that Beltline intersection to this one. You're like, well. I guess when we think about designs, when we think about the future and we think about our last item. I'm like, there's actually a lot of cool things about this intersection to praise, much as like we can critique it and nitpick it. But it feels a little interesting and I know sometimes we get funding for these things, so we take advantage of it. But when it's not tied into this longer term process, then I feel like we're sometimes designing and building complicated intersections that are not yet relevant.
Right, yeah, and that is a complaint about this intersection that I think is very valid, and the one thing I will say is that. The reason we put a protected intersection there was not because it needed a protected intersection. We put a protected intersection there because the intersection had deteriorated to the point of needing to be fully reconstructed. And we were like, well, if we have to completely rebuild an intersection, let's rebuild it to modern standard.
Yeah.
We never rebuild intersections, it's so rare. And so we were like, yes, it doesn't really make sense to do it right here, but we're also rebuilding it, so let's rebuild it for the future, like planning for the
Yeah.
future. But I think politically, it's a little bit of a tough sell, because people are like, why the heck is this out here? I will mention that the river path ends here at Beltline, like you were saying, and you can go underneath and grab
Yeah,
Oh,
the beaver path,
yeah,
and then the beaver path just pops you out onto Hunsaker,
which has no
Which
protected
has-
lane.
which
There
has
are-
nothing at all. It just has like a dirt shoulder.
it
Right,
gets
that's
better
cool.
at, well, you can see where that line is. You have an area there. That's a
So
shared-
here's the we call it the Beaver Hunsaker path,
Yeah,
and it ends right here.
yeah.
And then you have like a really narrow shoulder. It's not even
That
technically
is
a bike
not a
lane.
bike.
Also,
That isn't.
And this project from
Oh, yeah.
here down to River Road is green lighted to bring the street, Hunsaker Lane, to a fully modern street with curb,
Hallelujah.
with sidewalk, curb, and 6-foot bike lanes. So
That's
once that happens, I think this intersection will make a little bit more sense because now there's a bike lane on Hunsaker and it connects into the river
I
path.
would say
Um,
the wayfinding over there,
wayfinding's bad.
not,
I-
like, I intentionally kind of took one and I went on Hunsaker to get back. But I was like, I'm gonna use Google Maps and then turn it off just an experiment, like, yeah, it's supposed to connect to the river if I just, and I ended up on Division. And just, because I mean, it hits, you have a choice to hit.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty obvious, like, you actually have a good bike lane until that turn right there.
Yeah.
And you kind of, there's an area where you have a good bike lane there, and then if you don't see Beaver, that's where it connects, I think, or Lone Oak. One of them. There's no wayfinding on it. So
Yeah,
if you're not
okay.
like looking at your Google map, you're not gonna be like, hey, river path this way. It's
Right.
like not there.
So to zoom out on this conversation, I feel like we could continue talking about this intersection. It's not quite done, like the bike signals are still bad, so I think it's not quite done, but I am curious, just from a broad perspective, like, would we be interested in seeing more of these if we had, like, with this opportunity where we had to reconstruct an intersection, like, if we have to do that again? Would ATC be like supportive of pursuing another protected intersection? Does that feel like it meets the goals, or do we like, are there other interventions that people think are better? Sounds like we've got some thumbs up for these
No, I
protected
have
intersections,
other
like they're a
comments,
step in the
but-
right direction.
I have other comments, but I just talked a lot, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna allow
Yes.
someone else to speak.
I think that prioritizing completing whole routes. Or if there was a way of saying where I would rather see my money,
Mhm,
that a really great intersection in the middle of nowhere.
mhm.
It's nice. But I would be much more interested in connectivity with the bike path. Findable, safe connectivity with the bike path.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I like this
Yeah.
intersection, by the way. I'm willing to go slow and get
Right.
through something as hideous as.
well, and
that
it slows down cars, which.
Right.
But
What's the-
it's
is the-
important, like, this
yeah.
is also regardless of all the pedestrian, like, it does do something. It makes, hopefully, it decreases car crashes in that intersection. I mean, forget what it does for the non-existent pedestrians there. Like, it will make it safer there. I would say dovetailing with that, given that sometimes you just get the money to do something, and like, unfortunately, that's how city government, just at least we can incorporate these, when we make a protected intersection, it's gotta be at least thought about what is the future of that complete route?
Mhm.
Or are we gonna later be designing this complete route and this intersection doesn't even like work?
Right,
Yeah, I like the intersection.
okay.
Yeah, I think they look helpful. I haven't been up there. The question that comes to mind is like, in what context, where would we install these? Thinking like, downtown core, like. The way I see this one is like, it's a huge protected intersection, so I'm just trying to imagine what that would look like scaled down in downtown. Would it still be helpful? Or would it just be faster to be able to go through the intersection? So in that case, maybe not as useful, but, yeah, and then so just understanding context, I think it could be helpful in these like larger intersections that are super difficult to cross. Then yeah, I would be patient also and take the safe route.
Oh, we're really out of time, by the way.
Okay, let's
10
move on.
minutes. Well,
Thank you, everybody, for your feedback, and I
Yeah.
think if we come up on an opportunity where a protected intersection might be an option, we'll come back and discuss that in its specific context and figure out lessons learned from our first ever protected
Mhm.
intersection, which has been a little bit of a bumpy experience. Okay, it's September, which means that it's time to talk about ATC recruitment. ATC recruitment usually looks like a series of steps. The first one is I will email all of ATC informing you of your current status, which means like, where are you in your term? So are you in your first, like, are you entering your second year of your first term? Are you finishing your first term? And eligible for your second term? Your eligibility for your second term is automatic. So if you're finishing out your second year and you want to do a third year, you don't have to do anything other than tell me that you want to do a third year. There's no application or anything. So you can do 2 consecutive terms without having to reapply. This is your opportunity to step down from the committee if you want to. It's really helpful if you do want to step down from the committee to do it during this process rather than randomly, because this is when we bring on new people. So we've had a couple people who are like, I think I'll stay. And then like 2 months in, they're like, actually, I'm stepping down. It'd be better to know during recruitment. So if you are having a feeling like you aren't sure, or you're leaning towards stepping down, I'd rather hear about it during this period of recruitment. So you can tell me that via email when I send out, like, here's where you are at in your term. I'll just basically include a spreadsheet that has everyone on the committee and where they're at in their terms. And then you can email me back and say, like, I'd like to stay on, or I would like to step down. And then from there, we will find out how many vacancies we have and then fill them. If you know people who are interested in being on ATC, keep your eye out for the October in motion and some October like social media posts and stuff like that. That'll have the application and the information about applying.
And just to clarify, it's 2 2-year terms.
2 2-year terms, yeah. So the first, like I said, the first term is 2 years, and then you're eligible for your second term without having to do anything. You can also step down at any time. If the committee's not working for you, then you can step down. You don't have to like finish your term. There's no penalty or anything like that. Other than me being sad. That's a penalty for you. Any like questions or anything about ATC recruitment? It's pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, I have this cute little.
Oh.
I love this picture because it's got a person walking, 3 people on a bike and a bus. When I found this in our photos folder, I was like, huh,
Everything's
perfect. Okay, I think we can move on from that. Sweet. Are there any subcommittee share outs that we talked about the policy letter, but anything else you
Yeah.
want to share? Yeah.
Yeah, so the Capital Projects Committee met a few weeks ago, and we spent time doing 2 different things. We talked about advocating for a connection between Hilliard Street and Alder Street, where Peace Health is selling their Sacred Heart campus, so that 12th Avenue could continue uninterrupted all the way from the U of O campus all the way out to wherever it ends past Chambers. And Peter's had some information anyway. There's some more discussion about that. We need to talk to staff people, and I know that the cycle change is also interested in that.
Okay, great. I got an email from Charlie about this, and I followed up with Reed and Rob. And basically, like, from a transportation perspective, we have no regulatory teeth to require it.
Right,
So the conversation kind of has to move more towards like land use folks.
right,
And they also were like, we don't have a lot of regulatory teeth to require it. So
Right.
I think there could be an opportunity for there to be like some like political momentum from the Cycles of Change group to
Right.
like make it a really like for whoever ends up being the developer to really push them to do it electively. I think
Yeah.
is sort of the situation we're in,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
right.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. as
Yeah.
well. Second thing we did is we looked at the 2026 and 2027 pavement bond measure and other paving projects to see where there might be some places where we can influence the outcome. And we had a list of 3 coming up next year: Bethel Drive, which I mentioned earlier, Chambers Street, and Terry Street. And then in 27, Club Road on the other side of the river, Country Club Road and then County Farm Road. So those are all north of the river. So if you have interest in commenting on any of those, see one of us who are on the policy, not policy, but the capital projects. committee.
Sweet, thanks. Anything else from policy subcommittee besides the sidewalks letter?
We did not meet
Okay.
in August, though we met in July, which was not a requirement, so that's, which is my fault. I will apologize. I was just out of town and just didn't even bother to cancel officially the meeting. I just didn't schedule it. Though I would be curious to know if Peter's side projects wanted to speak. Because we all did get a letter, and I think Alan's the only one, and Charlie are the only people who at least replied to the group on it.
So that transitions greatly to the
Into the
BPAC share out.
Yeah.
Prince Peter.
Yeah, so, what BPAC's been working on their own is they, a couple months ago, did a walk audit of Glenwood. And they, published a report for that. This week, they're doing a walk audit of Mohawk area near like Winco.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to bike there every day. But yeah, with the letter that we're writing jointly, I went to their subcommittee last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. Regardless, got some really awesome feedback from those folks on some things that they would love to see. Specifically, very different than what we were originally talking about in the it's the neighborhood near the mall, Gateway area. Gateway. So I'm gonna, they incorporated some edits and I'm gonna incorporate some of the edits as well. And then, so hopefully I can bring that ready to be signed next month. I'll send out an email like 2 weeks before, asking for final edits, and hopefully we have something ready to be signed here. And then because they meet in October and then they probably won't meet in December. So October would be a great time for everyone to be talking about it.
Great. I won't speak for everyone 100%, but just given laziness and you doing that, maybe we could just take the policy committee to also help like look at that.
That
in a
would be
couple
great.
weeks,
Let's do that.
If we're not
Yeah.
doing, yeah, let's do that. I am gonna hijack that and be like, much as there are other things I'd actually rather do, if I'm not organizing them, I'd rather we be supportive to all the work Peter's doing.
Right,
Yeah.
seems like a good direction.
So
Yeah.
that would be the fourth Thursday and I will organize that.
Sweet. And the other update with BPAC is Willamette Lane is putting out a bunch of signage on their side of I-5 in like the river path system to make it easier for people to get to destinations in Eugene. And now they're like, hey, Eugene Parks, you want to do the same thing for people going that way? So that's part of the letter is kind of passing on Willamette Lane's message.
Thanks. Okay, I did want to mention that Abby put in the chat that this lot right here has been slated for, back to the protected bike intersection, for a new YMCA. So I do think that there is some, like with that protected intersection being right next to a YMCA, there also is, and then with the Hunsicker project being finished, there may come a time when that protected
There's tons of
intersection is
long
very
term
relevant.
potential.
Yeah,
It's just
very
right now, it's like.
Right now, it feels so random, but the future may hold some relevance. So thanks for bringing that up, Abby.
That's amazing.
It would be so nice to have another Y. I think it would help a lot, alleviate pressure off of the South Eugene Y as well.
Definitely like a midterm excitement for me as well. So yeah, happy to see this here. Yep.
Yeah, seems like progress is moving on L2D selling that property to the Y, so I think that we're in good shape. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart. Okay, the Bride Parade is on September 27th. We mentioned this at the last meeting, but as we're getting closer, if you could volunteer, that'd be great. We usually don't have enough volunteers. If you can't volunteer, but you can go, you should totally go. It's really fun and cool.
It's pretty.
It's a lot of fun to volunteer. I did it last year. It wasn't too stressful. Do it, please.
Well, and this year we actually are hiring some professional traffic management folks for the busier intersections. So if you do volunteer, you will not be put just your tiny little fleshy body. I know, dude. I was like, I'm just putting my body in between cars in the parade. It's scary. So that will happen this year. If you volunteer, you'll be given a chiller charge because we have professionals who are going to do that this year. Also this Saturday is the Ridgeline to Rivers group drive, celebrating the completion of High Street Bikeway and the sort of final connection between like the East Amazon Bike Path, the Amazon Path, High Street, and then the completion of the Riverfront Park. So on Saturday at 10:30, everyone's meeting at Ridgeline Montessori, and then at 11, doing a big group ride to celebrate this like vision that's been 25 years in the 30 years in the making of having a fully protected, separate path from the Ridgeline like trail system down to the river. So it's very exciting, and this is our opportunity. I think the mayor will be at the ride. And it ends with free bike valet and food carts and live music at the river park. So if you're around on Saturday mid-morning, you should head over to Ridgeline Montessori. They're also gonna be picking people up at 24th and Amazon Path, so you could just also go there and meet people.
KLCC just announced that it was on a Sunday.
Oh, KLCC.
I hope that wasn't the information they got and that they just.
No, it's my news release said Saturday. Okay, 24th Avenue update. I've just got a couple more things. I'm sorry, we're at 7:30. Paving is gonna start in fall, and it will be paved to have buffered bike lanes. That's the 2 stripes of paint. It's gonna take a couple more years probably for protection to go in. So that has kind of been the understanding from the beginning, but during the community engagement process, it was hard to communicate that. So I think there is a community expectation that there's gonna be protected bike lanes right away, and that's not the case. The conversation was, should we remove parking and create space for protected bike lanes? The actual protection is still something we need to get the funding for and install. So just so you all know, and if you're out there and talking to people about it, when the paint goes down and there's no protection, you can communicate to people that we're a couple of years out from putting protection in.
I saw there's a 4-way stop.
Oh,
On
also
24th
4-way
now?
stop was installed at Patterson and 24th. So.
Is that your intersection?
My inspection.
Can you talk about the process of how that got decided upon?
It just met the criteria. So traffic ops looked at 24th at places where it would meet criteria for a 4-way stop, and they found that Patterson met the criteria. I'm not exactly sure what the criteria is.
Who, do you know who at traffic ops to talk to about what that criteria would be?
I could ask and see if I can get it to you.
Okay, because we really
Yeah.
helpful to know what criteria is
Yeah,
needed.
Yeah.
I think it's like traffic volume stuff.
Seems like it happened
I think
fast.
the YMCA paid for it, right? I think the YMCA paid for the traffic study.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you need money. I don't know.
But,
Criteria.
yeah, I think that's true, but definitely double check that.
I don't know. I will get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That's our meeting. Real quick. Traffic ops got your letter about signal priority stuff, and they have already made some changes. I think you guys will be really happy. I know that we're over time. If anyone needs to leave, go ahead and leave, but I want to read you this email because
That's awesome, 'cause, yeah,
they added ped recall on Coburg at Cedarwood and Country Club, so now when you have to press the
Oh,
button,
wow.
they just bringing it up now. They like listen, they like actually listen, they're like, okay, yeah, we can do that. Which is really exciting because we've been asking for that for a long time. They also added ped recall at Coburg and MLK. And when I say ped recall, that means that the walking signal comes up with the, like, when the green light turns green for cars, the walking signal automatically comes up. Instead of you having to push the button in order to get it to come up.
Right.
They also added ped recall on Willamette at 24th, 25th, and 27th.
Wow.
Nice, very nice.
And they added a 4-second leading pedestrian interval on Franklin at Walnut.
Wow.
So some of the stuff that you guys asked for in the letter happened. You sent that letter and it kind of languished for a while, and then Rob and Reed went and met with traffic operations. They had like a sit-down meeting in person at their facility, and they had, like, at times it's a difficult conversation, but I think a lot of really good stuff happened in that meeting, and traffic ops came back and was like, this is what we can do. The thing I want to say is that if there feels like there are other priority locations where this kind of intervention would make a big impact, I think that we should talk about those. I do think we want to be strategic with that because this is difficult and it does impact the system. So being strategic about where and what we're asking for, but I do think there is a little bit of opportunity for those asks to maybe be heard. So as you guys are, thinking about it and working on stuff, just keep that in mind, but it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they,
That's so
that all that, like, those were the major things that you all asked for in the letter, and then.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
you
was,
too.
well, I would like to praise Peter and Ash particularly,
Yeah.
just given the things you just mentioned, that was like very much these two, so that just is worthy of.
And I
praise.
think it's worth noting that like these were, you, in the letter, you had said like, for example, and then listed these locations, and we sort of took that as like, these are priority
Oh, yeah.
locations. So I think that just thinking about future work that the ATC does, like, if we are gonna be doing stuff, being careful about whether we're like,
Mm.
these are examples or these are priorities,
Mhm.
because it can be hard for us to tell the difference, and if we're in a situation where someone's willing to move and this is what we have, like, we might move on it. So just thinking about that as we do future work.
I will say, I think a challenge with that is that even our current makeup of ACT
ATC.
often misses certain neighborhoods.
Absolutely,
And like,
yeah.
that often are less pedestrian.
And so do
friendly.
staff, and I think it's just, yeah, we're in, you know, we kind of have to, we're doing the best we can, and these are big improvements. So just thinking about as we're around town, and if we see other areas for improvement, it would worth noting, and then staff can help decide if it's a priority or not. So anyway, we are 6 minutes over time. But thank you, everybody. Good meeting tonight.
Thank you. Well, that's-
Every single day across Franklin, twice a day, and every time I'm thinking about it. It makes my life so much
The
easier.
LPI comes up and you're like.
Yes, it's happening twice a day, every single day this week when I'm on my way to
You
work
know,
and back.